Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I just want to send again some gratitude and thank you for everyone who's been tuning in and watching the videos. And I certainly hope that you're finding them useful in your day-to-day life. Again, I'm just sort of promoting health, and thank you so much for watching. So today I'm going to talk about sugar intake. So I'm just going to keep it simple and talk about literally just sugar. So in this case, we're going to talk about three different types of sugar. We're going to talk about naturally occurring sugars, added sugar, and free sugars. I'm sure that most of us have heard of these terms, and it can be quite confusing to figure out which is which one is good for us, or any of them good for us. So that's sort of the topic for today, is to debunk sugar and to just ensure a better understanding of what sugar intake is and, of course, what it's doing to our bodies. So it is important to remember that we do need sugar. Our brains use sugar, our blood requires sugar, and our muscles require sugar. So if we're not getting any sugar intake, then our body will break down fat and protein into sugars to feed our brain. So that is, of course, the basis of any low carbohydrate diet, of course, but that is definitely for another day. So we do need sugar. The best place to get sugar is through naturally occurring sources. So, for example, the naturally occurring sugar in fruits and vegetables is the best source. It's the healthiest source, mainly because it's accompanied with fiber and other nutrients. So it's a really great source of sugar. That's really all that we need. So in terms of added and free sugars, we don't really need those in the diet. So when we think of the sort of side effects of sugar, it is related to if we eat too much sugar. So for example, too much sugar is quite pro-inflammatory. So the problem could be low immune system or even chronic illness from too much sugar intake. Too much sugar intake actually stores in our fat cells, so then we could end up with overweight or obesity. And that in itself is associated with cardiovascular disease, diabetes, inflammatory diseases such as arthritis, as well as many different types of cancers. We also see, again, low immune system, as well as even tooth decay with too much sugar intake. So there's quite a few issues with too much sugar intake. So once you have sort of your sugar from fresh fruits and vegetables, and there's even some in dairy. If you choose dairy in your diet, that's really all the sugar that we need. So the World Health Organization recommends that we get no more than 50 grams of added or free sugar a day. So added sugar would be any sugar that's added to a processed food item. Free sugar includes sugars also found in fruit juices, honey, and other syrups such as maple syrup, which, if you ask me, honey and maple syrup are much healthier than like a refined white sugar, but still is included in the added sugar. So that's really important to remember. So when we think of 50 grams a day, we're thinking about 12 teaspoons of added or free sugars a day. Can be safe. Anything above that, we're going to see the effects. So, for example, where are we seeing added sugars? So I actually should have probably picked up some products that have added sugars because I didn't realize how low my diet is in added sugar, to be honest. I'm actually really surprised. Uh, so some of the things that I do have in it, I'm looking around because I have some products here with me. Now this is a really incredible barbecue sauce. So I'm certainly not like harping on it or anything, but it's one of the products in my home that have added sugar. So what happens here, if I look on the back, I've got 9 grams of sugar per tablespoon. The 9 grams of sugar per tablespoon is all added. So I know that sugar is added to my product if I go into the ingredient list and I've got a list of my ingredients and sugars on there in some forms. So some forms of sugar include, for example, brown sugar, glucose, fructose. I'm also seeing molasses is added to this. Anything else? That might be it. So again, some pretty healthy added sugar options, but still added sugar. Glucose and fructose, not so much. Some other products I have here that have added sugar. So I have dark chocolate. Dark chocolate has 8 grams of sugar per 1/3 of the chocolate bar per 30 grams. And the added sugar in this is whole cane sugar. Again, not so bad considering some of the added sugars on the market. We're seeing high fructose corn syrup or just corn syrup. We're seeing maltodextrin. Anything that ends in OSE is telling you that there's added sugar in the product. So, for example, sucrose, glucose, fructose, maltose, mannose, all of those are added sugar. So this is a treat that I had over the weekend. I love chips. They're actually like, one of my favorite snacks. Now in here, I'm only getting 2 grams of sugar for the whole bag. So I understand there's not a whole lot of sugar. But the sugar in this is in the form of corn maltodextrin. So it's highly refined. It's very inexpensive to use, but it's also not super healthy because there's no added nutrients. It raises our blood sugar really quickly. It's not a great option for sugar. So the other one that I wanted to show you, well, I don't really have any other added sugar, but so for example, honey. Now I really like honey because it's really good for our immune system, and there's nutrients, especially if it's raw, unpasteurized. That's the way to go. This isn't raw, but it is unpasteurized. Now, it does have 16 grams of sugar per tablespoon, so that means per teaspoon there's 4 grams of sugar. But if I'm using, for example, a sugar-free pancake mix, such as this guy here, which literally has no sugar and obviously no added sugar since there's no sugar, if I'm using that plus a little tiny bit of honey or maple syrup, that's way better than buying a food with tons of added sugar. So we can see added sugars up to, for example, 68 grams of sugar found in a vanilla latte, a large vanilla latte. That's 17 teaspoons of sugar in a drink, and we've already gone over the amount that we should have in a day. So a lot of the products on the market, just be aware of that added sugar. So how can we reduce sugar intake in the diet? Now, first of all, again, naturally occurring sugar doesn't really count, but we do want to have more sugar from vegetables as opposed to fruit, just saying, just to reduce our sugar intake. In terms of using added sugars, you might want to follow an unprocessed or low processed food diet. That's going to be the easiest way to reduce sugar intake in your diet. Again, buy products that don't have any sugar and use your own, a little bit of maple syrup or honey to reduce overall sugar intake. And then you can also use, for example, unsweetened applesauce in baked goods or pureed fruits and vegetables in baked goods as opposed to sugar or corn syrup. And you can also use flavor enhancers instead, so you can use cucumber or mint or cocoa or even a little bit of dark chocolate, which is quite low in sugar compared to some of the higher some of the more sugary products on the market. And then again, a whole foods diet is probably the best way to go in terms of reducing sugar intake. Reduce intake of sugary drinks, reduce intake of pops, anything like that, in order to really reduce your sugar intake. So that's all I want to talk about sugar today. That is quite long. Sorry, I'm going over 8 minutes here, so I'll stop here. So again, I hope that was helpful for you. A lot of people have been asking me about, what I do in nutrition consultations and how I actually run my business. So later in the week, I'm going to actually do my first live video, which is really exciting, and I'm going to talk about how I run through a 1-hour consultation and what you're going to get out of working with me. I hope to do that maybe on Wednesday night, so I'll definitely let you guys know when I'm doing that. And thanks again. Reach out to me if you have any questions, any concerns, and happy Tuesday. Thank you for watching, and eat well, Halifax.